prepping. Hold on. It always shows that we're live on this before it actually goes live on the other screen. So I just want to make sure. Okay.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Bridget Pryor. I'm the chair of the ad hoc executive committee search. I'm here with my other members, Donna Dixon, as well as Jare Gauze. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 12:10. Do we have any public comment, Melanie?
Not that I am aware of. We apologize. Just as the meeting got started, we had an alarm go off. And so Rebecca Delgazo, who usually is our person who coordinates this and starts the meeting, had to get out of the building and evacuate the building. So she will be hopefully joining us shortly when this ends, and we'll redo public comment at that time.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go according to the agenda to unfinished business. And I thank you, Donna, for gathering that information for the consulting firm.
Sure.
So if you would like to give us a few details about it. I know I read it over, and the big thing is the amount.
Yeah. So I as Brigitte mentioned, I reached out to Karen Miller, who is the principal at Bradbury Miller Associates, which is a very prominent recruiting firm specializing in library executive search and public libraries in particular. We had a good conversation. I asked her to send us a proposal, which I received yesterday and forwarded on to the members of the committee, Melanie and Rebecca. And, you know, I think I had mentioned the last time we met that I thought that their fee structure was based on salary. And she said, actually, that's old school, which they now go for just a flat fee, just based on what they need to spend and the time that they need to spend. It doesn't really vary that much in terms of how much the candidate or the successful candidate is being paid, as much as it is based on the work that they need to do and the time that they need to spend to conduct the search and do all of the associated tasks with it. So to just give an overview, the fee, which she quoted me over the phone, is between $22,000 and $26,000 flat fee. And then the proposal stated that they would charge us $24,000, covers everything except for the candidate's travel. And I think if I recall correctly, when we did the last search, we did pay for candidates' travel. Is that pretty much standard? Okay. Yeah. They do attend. Of course, it will depend on what happens with the pandemic, but typically they do attend. They do have a representative or two attend the final interviews. They do everything from making the initial announcement, conducting information sessions and focus groups with library staff and with stakeholders, trustees, et cetera, from the community, to develop expectations and the job posting and announcement. Obviously, we have a civil service set job description, but we have, I think, a lot of leeway and a lot of sort of agency to describe the position outside of that, and to describe what it's like to be in Albany, and talk about, you know, our wonderful community and patrons and, you know, our wonderful staff. So the proposal that I shared with everyone does include, they will tweak the job description if needed, but, you know, share an org chart. They'll post it, they'll do all the recruiting, they'll manage all of the candidate documents, create a list and a matrix for the trustees and the committee to kind of, you know, see where everyone is in the process. Do all of the process management, develop draft interview questions, et cetera, to facilitate the search. They typically, as it's mentioned in the proposal, their goal and their kind of average is that they will come up with a pool of somewhere between 15 and 20 candidates, narrow them down, and then present a group of 3 or 4 final candidates that they recommend for final interviews. So, and their time frame for that is average track record. And again, the pandemic may play a part in well, certainly will play a part in how long this is going to take, but about 120 days from posting based on everyone's availability. So, you know, I think their proposal is very thorough, and I think, you know, in my own opinion, I think really it's just helpful to have this in general because it gives us kind of a matrix for all the tasks that need to be done in conducting the search, and also talks a lot about what the scope is of where they do their recruiting. They do have pools of applicants. They have people that they're in touch with who they know are looking, so on and so forth. So, you know, I thought this looked very complete, although I was disappointed, not disappointed, but you know, I wish that we had been able to go forward without having to RFP, but you know, in my experience, I don't think that this fee structure is going to vary a lot from firm to firm. I think this is probably pretty much the going rate, and the fact that they get hired over and over and over again by prominent public library systems to conduct searches tells a story. So it's going to be, well, I'll end there and let others speak.
Thank you. Jared, do you have any questions or comments in regards to the proposal? I know that you can. Can you just put it in the chat if you have something that you would like to express? While she's typing, I agree that I think that it was very thorough what I read about their time frame and the scope, and I particularly like their recruitment of how to get applicants from a diversified background. So I like that as well as all their other references and whoever, you know, the other libraries that they worked with. And that they broke it down on the background service that they refer out, but that's essentially within the cost of the 24,000. Mm-hmm. So, and based on applicants, they put the range from 350 to 900. So that could get a little costly as well. So that's good that it's included in their price, and $6,000 down, and upon the signage of the agreement, and then what's left, so we can also negotiate a little bit throughout. But yes, unfortunately, we have to go through the RFP now.
Yeah,
so
I did reach back out to Karen at Melanie's suggestion to see if they were by any chance on New York State contract, and they are not, unfortunately. So,
and I do have a question into our legal counsel at the moment, asking if this is considered in an emergency situation, because we are without a director, and because the board does have the leeway if in an emergent situation.
So, okay. So we can possibly just bring it to a board vote on Tuesday.
It could be, if that's the case. Yeah. So I'm waiting to hear back. I know he was unfortunately in a disposition, in a legal matter today, dealing with that. So state on what type of legal matter.
Great.
So did everybody receive my email regarding the clarification from last week about how it does have to be posted with an MLS?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But Jared also said that she does have some questions, but she'll hold off at this time. But she will, the civil service meeting would have been very helpful in deciding what's next steps to take. So do we have another date for the civil service test or meeting?
Not yet. The director of the person put the kibosh on it because it was after the person's normal scheduled hours. So I don't want to upset them. I am working on rescheduling that, but it could be difficult, especially because it now has to be done during business hours. So I'm actually gonna possibly suggest creating a list of questions, and maybe Melanie and I could talk to the person and then get your answers and then send it out to the whole board. That might be easier. I don't know. I'll let you know.
Maybe a board member can also be there at the time of the meeting.
Yeah,
like if it's one of these times now, like a lunchtime or whatever.
Yeah.
Someone else can be there as well.
I did just ask what the business hours are available. I would assume it would probably be 9 to 5.
Right. Right. Because I mean, I understand, but then it got a kind of little convoluted about the MLS, what was needed, what was not needed, the DLD, or the library director. Well, I don't know. I forgot what it stood for. The LD, was it LDD?
If you don't mind me reiterating, so it's on the record as well.
Sure.
So it was brought to my attention to clarify things that yes, when we posted the position in 2009 and 2014, the intent of the board at that time was to create the position as an executive director, as opposed to library director, to allow for the ability to court somebody that doesn't have an MLS but might have an MPA instead. City civil service and state civil service both agreed to those job specs. They said, yes, you can change up the job spec and have it approved as such. However, the Division of Library Development, which is the organization that can grant our charter, said no. By their commission regulations, it is required for an organization to have, or for a library that is chartered as we are, to have the MLS. I will state that, and this was reiterated to me by Bob. It was something that I was not privy to because I had just joined the organization myself in 2014 when the search was done, and the beginning of the search was done prior to me joining the committee. So I was not aware of that aspect of it. So the way DLD has stated that we are able to post the position is we can post it as the executive director, as it is stated that a master's degree is required, but the added line of must be in possession or able to obtain the professional librarian certificate, because that is, to have that professional librarian certificate from the state does require the MLS. So by having that line on the job spec does, even if we got somebody with an MPA, they would still have to have the MLS because they would have to be able to obtain that professional librarian certificate. So there's no reason we need to change the job spec. It could still be as we have it. Because when it was posted for Scott's position, they did have to resubmit the job posting with that line on it to ensure that the individual would have an MLS. So, while I was explaining this, Jare had a question. It wasn't Scott's paid for by the library because he went for it. Yes, so that was the board did asked that Scott, I believe last year or the year before, start his MPA. And he was in the process of getting his MPA per the board's request. And yes, the library was paying for that. That was a decision the board had made, though. So once again, that could happen again if we did have an individual that just had the MLS and not the MPA as well. That could be that would be a discussion between that individual and the board.
Does that satisfy the DLD?
The DLD, as long as the person has their MLS, they're satisfied. And as I stated, we're not the only library who has attempted to make this shift in the requirements. It was my understanding that I believe Buffalo Area County also proposed that they do the same thing. And the DLD did turn them down as well. So my belief is, we're in need of a director, so we should, not convolute this too much and just, post the position with the MLS required, as it currently is. And then maybe after the fact, have the board, similar to what we have done for civil service when we've had a disagreement with the way civil services run things, have the board also submit a letter stating that their support is that the position be.
But we would also, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I was just going to say the position would also be allowed to be somebody with an MPA. And my suggestion was, as long as there's somebody else within the administration level of the organization with an MLS. So if an assistant director or similar position would have.
But I was just going to say that the candidate would also have to know that if they came in, that it would be required for them to obtain the certified professional certificate that you just mentioned.
So the librarian professional certificate, pretty much any librarian who is currently serving in New York State already has it. They're required, all librarians are required to have that.
Okay, so Scott was going for the MLS.
No, he had his MLS. He was going for the MPA.
Oh, okay. So that wouldn't be a requirement for the next candidate?
No, it's a decision of the board. That's discussion up to you guys if you want somebody with both the MLS and the MPA.
Right.
The position requires us to have the person with an MLS.
Right.
However, I would state if you're requiring 2 master's degrees, the pay rate would probably have to go up.
There's that, and also it would narrow the field. I think we would have a better, we'd have a larger pool of candidates who might be willing to pursue an MPA, or we could certainly state in the ad that, an MLS is required and an additional master's degree in public administration is preferred or highly desirable or something like that. And certainly, if we wanted to hire someone who did not have an MPA, it's a discussion that I think the board could have with the candidate at that time to say, would you be interested in pursuing this? It would be our preference and we would assist or whatever, again, that's a board decision, but I think we could, there's a way to work it into the job ad without making it a requirement.
Right. I just wanted to be cautious and make certain that we're in compliance with both civil service as well as the DLD, because as you mentioned, that this issue has been brought up several times throughout the library systems, including Buffalo, Erie, and the DLD is always denied, according to Bob's memo.
They denied not having the requirement of the MLS.
Right. And then I was just saying for the candidate, if that's something that the board, if we decide that that's something that we wanted, that the candidate is upfront, knows this going in. And so everyone is on the same path. Okay. All right. So I guess the next step would be meeting with civil service. making certain that we're in compliance with them as well as Bob.
Well, we're
Um,
already in compliance with civil service, so that's not an issue in the way it is posted now with having the statement at that the position requires you to hold the professional library certificate.
Okay,
That
so
requires the MS, so that's all set. So it's
why are we meeting with
essentially-
civil service?
Civil service was a discussion with the personnel committee
Oh,
because they're
okay.
looking at the individual. They're not looking just at the director. They're looking at all
Right.
the positions. So that's why
Right.
that was, it wasn't in.
Okay, so that's, yeah, so that doesn't, I mean, unless we want interested, but that's not something that this committee has to concern itself with. Okay.
Right, we were just inviting all trustees in case anybody else was interested or may have had a question.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Jarre says, I think we should be straightforward with the posting from the very beginning so that for clarification, the MLS is required, but can be obtained while employed at the same time with the MPA. No, the person would have to have the MLS at the time of employment because they're required to have the professional librarian certificate. As I said, it's a New York State requirement. As long, once the person, if the person happens to be coming from out of state and doesn't have the certificate, it's a quick application that they would get because they would have the MLS, and it's essentially a fee to get the certification because they just verify that you have your MLS. I will tell you, when I was out of state and looking for positions in New York I already had my, because I had come from New York State when I left to go to Texas. But when I was looking in all of New England, I essentially picked all my states and paid the fee to get certified. So even though I haven't worked in Massachusetts or Connecticut or Rhode Island, I have my certifications there because I was looking for positions and I paid the fee to get the certification off the bat so it would be handled. And most other people at this level would probably do the same. I can't guarantee they would do the same prior to being hired, but upon being hired, as long as they have their MLS, it's a quick.
Yeah, they're eligible for the certificate as long as they have an MLS. And it's, as Melanie said, it's just paying a fee to state ed to, and prove that you actually have the MLS.
So you just have to submit your transcript.
Yeah, and actually there's also a requirement. I think there's still a requirement. It was waived for me because, and probably for you too, Melanie, because we've been MLSs for so long. But I think newer MLSs have to do something like 60 hours of continuing ed every 5 years.
Every 3 years.
Every 3 years. Okay. Yep. Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any other discussion in regard to this topic?
So Jarre said, so the MPA can be obtained while employed, correct? Yes. So if that is a requirement that you guys are putting forth, that the person has the not only has the MLS, but it has either obtained or is willing to obtain the MPA, that can be stated if that is what you guys so choose, but just understand with requiring 2 master's degrees that it, or suggesting 2 master's degree, the rate of pay that we're currently doing would probably prohibit that for most people.
Yeah, I would be far more in favor of stating that an MPA or the willingness to obtain an MPA is highly desirable, but not make it a requirement.
But not required, correct.
But we can also bring it to the full board on Tuesday in reference to that question that Jarre puts forth. So I suggest that we put that as well as the proposal and all the information that goes with the proposal and the going forward to finding a consultant. Although we have to go through a RFP process. So I make that recommendation that we bring it to the full board.
Okay. And like I said, if we are to find from Bob that this is considered an emergent situation, which would exclude us from going for the RFP or requiring to go for the RFP, then that would be an option. But just so you're all aware, if we do, so you have 2 options. If that's not the case and we do have to go for the RFP, so the RFP is going to add to the length of this because it will most likely be a 3-week to 4-week posting for the RFP. And then the additional 120 days for the director search after that. So your decision would have to be, do you still want to go with a consultant, or did you want to do it internal and just handle it internally?
Yeah, so I guess we'll wait for Bob's recommendation and then take it to the full board and see how we want to proceed. Because they were saying 6 months instead of the 120 is what, 3 months, correct?
Correct.
Is that 3 months, right? So
They're a little bit,
4
4
months.
months actually.
4 months, okay. So then we're saying well, at least 6, 7 months.
Yeah. So if we were to do it quicker, the consideration might be to do it internally, because we could essentially have that posted by next week if you do it internally. And we
Yes, and then go by the time frame that a consultant sent us. We already have the information here and what to look for and how to go about it. So,
and that is how it was done when the last go around. It was done as an internal process.
Melanie, to ask a question about the internal process, and again, I don't remember how involved I was with that at the time. So I just, if you could refresh my memory, was that handled by our HR department?
HR department only was the keeper of the materials. So the
Okay.
board had their committee, and the board
Right.
did
Okay.
the whole search and
Okay.
put out the information. But when the applicants were submitted, we submitted them through the HR department. So they would have one
Yeah.
location to go to, and then the HR
Okay.
distributed them. So it doesn't even have to be HR. It could be myself or Rebecca to be receiving those and passing them on to the board.
Thank you.
Well,
Okay, so do we need to make a motion to bring this to the full board or to add it to the agenda?
I did make a recommendation. That's what I was doing, but okay, I'll say it
I
again.
don't know. Do we?
well, I don't know, because right now you haven't really made a decision on anything. You're looking
Okay.
to have a discussion. So that would be what, you do have your committee report out during the board meeting. And so you can just state as part of that, you wanted to have a further discussion with the board.
Right. Yeah. So that's what we all in agreement that we're going to bring this to the full board on Tuesday with our discussion and recommendations, or what we already discussed throughout our report. Okay.
All right. How do you feel on that? Yep.
Yes and
Okay.
yes. All right. Do we need any new business? Nope. All right. Do we need to go into executive session? Nope. So,
Rebecca, really quick, was there any public comment since you were?
There was no public comment for this meeting. If anyone does want to make a public comment, you can still send an email to publiccomment@albanypubliclibrary.org or leave a voicemail at 518-290-6905. Both accounts are monitored. We do ask that you leave your name and address to identify yourself.
thank you, Rebecca. So if we don't have any other business or comments or questions, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
You got to do the vote.
Yeah.
Brigitte, you got a
Jare?
motion and no, you got to. Well, did Donna make the motion and?
I seconded it. Brigitte made the motion to adjourn.
Oh,
and I seconded it.
Right. Oh, okay. So that's all we need. All right.
So
So,
now you have to
I
vote.
have to vote.
oh, we have to vote now. Okay.
You have to vote.
Aye.
Aye.
And I for Yare. Thank you. All right, very good. Very
Thank you
nice.
very much.
Thanks.
Everybody have a great weekend. Thanks again, Donna, for all your
Oh, sure.
help.
Yep, you're welcome.
Thank you. Take care. Bye, Jare.